Hey y'all, my name is Christian. I'm a millennial, and this is the Millennial Mind. Millennials get a bad rap for being lazy, non productive members of society. We also get told that our opinions are warped and don't matter. This podcast is designed to express a point of view on the world as a whole, but from a millennial's perspective. I will talk about love, current events, pretty much everything that comes to mind. Come join me on this journey on speaking my mind, and I would love for you to speak your mind as well. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, even on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, you can download the Anchor app, that's ANCHOR, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. Thank you again for listening and joining me on this journey of speaking my mind, and I hope that you're doing the same as well. So I'm going to get right into the episode because the topic for this episode, or really the subject of this episode, really touched my heart, me being African American. And so this deals with someone who is African American as well. So if you all haven't seen recently, probably in like the last week or so, something's been going on in social media. So I was scrolling through Instagram, just doing my usual daily mindless scroll through Instagram, and then I saw this video from Kirk Franklin. Now, if you don't know who Kirk Franklin is, just Google him. So I grew up churchy, and so I couldn't listen to secular music. I could only listen to gospel music. So Kirk Franklin is like, well, first of all, he's a gospel artist, producer, songwriter. My husband says that he is P. Diddy of gospel music. So, so Kirk Franklin, he is a gospel artist that took gospel music to the mainstream level. Like, if you've ever listened to Kirk Franklin's music, just look up his discography. Just for a moment, like, pause this podcast if you don't know who he is and look up his discography. Like, he had songs that were playing in the club. I mean, that's how popular his music was. Nobody knew what they were dancing to. They just liked the beat. So he really brought gospel music into the secular world where people could still learn about God and learn about Jesus. But anyway, besides his credentials, I saw him put a video on Instagram in which the video, it was a little bit longer than the videos he usually do. Like, his videos are, about him and his wife, or something funny. But this one looked real serious. He was sitting on a desk or a chair or something like that. And he looked real serious. So I'm like, okay, let me see what this is about. So I looked at the video, and he was basically speaking about him accepting an award at the Dove Awards. So if you don't know what the Dove Awards are, they are basically the Grammys for Christian and gospel artists. Okay. So he accepted an award at the Dove Awards several years ago, and he used his platform to talk about the senseless police shootings against Black people. People such as like Trayvon Martin, or I think the other one was Philando Castile, who had gotten shot pretty much for no reason. So he talked about that during his speech. When the Dove Awards officially aired, that part of his speech was edited out. Coincidence? Maybe. I don't know. So as a result, he spoke to the Dove Awards Committee and TBN, which I did not know that TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, if you don't know what TBN is one of the main Christian networks that's on TV. Okay, so I had no idea that they were in charge of the Dove Awards. I'm not surprised though, but I just didn't know. So after the incident, he spoke to the Dove Awards Committee and TBN, and they stated that they will work on it. You know, it was a mishap. They stated that they would work it out. Fast forward to recently, 2019, the Dove Awards came again, and he won the same speech. I think it was like Best Gospel Artist or something like that. So Kirk Franklin won the award again, and said another speech pertaining to the senseless police shootings. This time, it was about the woman who was killed while playing video games with her nephew. I believe her name was Tatiana something. Forgive me, I can't remember her name. If you remember her name, please put it in the comments. So he was speaking about the senseless shooting that happened pertaining to her, and how she was defenseless, and you know, it's just crazy that the police thought that she was a threat when she was basically playing video games with her nephew. And her nephew saw the whole thing, so we need to pray for Tatiana's family, pray for the family of the nephew, pray for the family of the police officer. Okay? When the Dove Awards this year aired again, that part of his speech was edited again. Coincidence? Not a chance. So he spoke to the Dove Committee again, and, well, not only the Dove Committee, but he spoke to TBN again. And so he came to a conclusion that it would be better if he didn't perform for or attend the Dove Awards anymore, or TBN, until basically they got their act together. So many people shared his post, including Shaun King, who is a wonderful advocate for people of color, making sure that justice is served. So shout out to Shaun King. I really appreciate the work that he's doing. But many people shared his post and stated that they were standing with Kirk Franklin. All of a sudden, maybe a few days later, the Dove Awards and TBN issued an apology. And here's what they said. We would like to publicly acknowledge that we are deeply apologetic for the missteps that happened relating to the editing of Kirk Franklin's Dove Awards acceptance speech. It left a general perception that we are not concerned with key social issues that affect people of color. It is not our intent to disregard or silence any of our artists, and we are deeply saddened by this perception and are committed to change this. And then what they also did was they posted an unedited version of his speech. What are my thoughts on it? Clearly, they weren't thinking about social issues pertaining to people of color when they edited Kirk Franklin's speech. Twice. Twice they did it. Is it a coincidence that they edited the speech twice? No. Are they ever going to fix it? Not as long as they have majority support. And what do I mean by that? My view on this is if you don't stand for anything, then you stand for nothing. Meaning that if you don't stand up for what's right, then you're standing for the complacency and the wrong. And my whole thought process on this is I went to law school. For those of you who don't know, I am an attorney. And what I did learn in law school is that silence is still an answer. When you say nothing, it's as loud as you saying yes or no. So when you don't vocalize your support or vocalize your dissatisfaction with something, you're saying something. Believe it or not, you're still expressing yourself without verbally expressing yourself. So what I've decided to do, and maybe other people will join me with this, I plan to start vocalizing. I'm sorry, I have something stuck in my throat. I'm trying to get it out, people. Okay, let's start this again. I plan to start vocalizing my dissatisfaction with the Dove Awards and with TBN by not watching the Dove Awards and TBN. And, you know, I used to watch the Dove Awards and TBN quite regularly. But there always seemed to be something that didn't sit right when I watched it. I don't know what it was, but sometimes the shows that would come on these networks or the Dove Awards itself didn't seem as genuine to me. And with this whole scandal coming out, it kind of makes sense why it didn't feel as genuine. So I plan that's my first step in vocalizing my dissatisfaction. I wish that other gospel artists and other people who are Christian wouldn't attend the Dove Awards or support TBN either. Because as long as these entities are getting support, you know, they don't really have the initiative to really correct their wrong. So this had me to think, why does it seem like people of color are always deemed to be insignificant or not important by the people of the majority? One thing that I can think of is privilege. The whole thing is is that people of color live a different life than people who are not of color. Meaning, we go through life a little bit differently. We teach our children certain things that, you know, people who are not of color don't teach their children. For example, my parents taught me and my brother early on how to deal with the police. If we ever got stopped, this is how you do with the police, or this is what you do with the police. You don't argue with them. You don't try to prove your point. Christian, you're going to be an attorney. You don't say that you're an attorney because that may make it worse. If they say jump, you say how high. Now, people who are not of color may not teach their children the same thing. Of course, they may say like, okay, you need to respect the police, but it may not go as far as, you know, when the police say jump, you say how high. So it's a little bit different. So, with that being said, because of that privilege, some people who are not people of color think that if something is not happening to them, then it's not happening. And I see this or hear this a lot. You know, people say, oh, you know, there isn't, you know, discrimination and racism, you know, going on. People are just, or people of color are being more dramatic. Well, how would you know if you've never been through it and you're not a person of color? You know, that's kind of desensitizing or downplaying the experiences of other people. That's like me saying, oh, like the Holocaust wasn't a huge deal, but I'm not Jewish. And I haven't gone through the Holocaust. So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know how the experience of the Holocaust was. Another reason that I could think of as far as why does it seem like people of color are always deemed to be insignificant or not important, is that some people may not want the truth that the people of color express to be exposed because it exposes them. So, with this thing on senseless shootings that's been going on for a long time, actually, this exposes corrupt police officers. This exposes corrupt attorneys. This exposes corrupt judges. This exposes corrupt people. And those corrupt people don't want to be seen to be in a bad light. They don't. I mean, who would want to be deemed to be a bad person? Absolutely nobody. But I mean, this truth, and especially now since we have phones and cameras to really put it out there for the world to see, people are getting exposed now. You know, it's no more guessing like, oh yeah, did this person shoot this black person, this black woman who was just playing video games with her nephew? No, it's on camera now. So there's no denial. There's no denial whatsoever. Like, oh, was this black woman threatening? No, she was literally playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew. So things like that, this exposure, people, corrupt people are being exposed for the wrongs that they've been doing for years. So what can we learn from Kirk? What can we learn from his experience and his declaration of the wrong that he experienced. What can we learn? One, acknowledge the wrong. If you were wronged in any way, whether it has something to do with race, your sex, a disability, etc., acknowledge the wrong. State that you've been wronged. That was the first step in what Kirk did. He went on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and he said that he had been wronged. Expose the wrong. And you know what? Let me back up to acknowledging the wrong. So before Facebook, before he went to social media, the acknowledgement of the wrong was actually him going to the Dove Awards Committee and also TBN and letting them know of the wrong that he experienced. And that leads into the second part, or the second thing that we can learn, exposing the wrong. The exposure of the wrong actually came with him getting on social media and exposing the wrong that he did, since he didn't get anywhere with the acknowledgement. He didn't get anywhere with him going to TBN and the Dove Awards Committee and letting them know that he wasn't appreciative of what they did, again, for the second time in a row. So he exposed it. He exposed it to millions of people through social media. The third thing that we can do is fight through the wrongdoers trying to shut you up for exposing the wrong. So you'll have people, whenever you try to do what's right and expose the wrong, you're going to have people who's going to say like, oh, why did you do that? That wasn't right for you to do. You didn't need to do all that. It wasn't that bad. Oh, you're overreacting. Oh, you're being dramatic. No, you gotta fight through that. And I'm sure that Kirk Franklin experienced that. I'm sure there was somebody who commented on that video. It was like, oh, you're being dramatic. Oh, you're being too much. It could have been, or it may have been, people on the Dove Awards Committee or TBN that said, oh, you're being dramatic. Like, yeah, we edited your speech, specifically the content that included information about senseless shootings against Black people. But you're really being overdramatic. Yeah, we did it twice. Yeah, we know, but you're really being dramatic. It's not that bad. You gotta fight through that, because that goes with the idea of exposing the wrong. And honestly, sometimes when you fight through that, you may be by yourself. You may be by yourself when you're going through this fight. But if you believe that what you went through is wrong and what you're fighting for is right, you stand up for that right. Right always wins. And then another thing we can learn is to right the wrong. So, and this actually goes with the third thing as far as fighting through. But what Kirk Franklin decided to do was just say, okay, if you're going to keep doing this to me, then I'm no longer going to be a participant in any of your events. So, and you know what? I would love if you supported me. So, fighting through what you believe is right, and then showing your fight on social media or however you want to do it, and doing what you need to do in order to expose it, that helps. It will be even better if Dove Awards, and I know the Dove Awards and TBN, they were kind of They did like a reactive apology. It would have been great if they were proactive and said, okay, we're just going to let this content go because it's important to put on the air, and we'll edit out something else that may not be of importance. But they didn't want to do that. So making sure that you right the wrong, be more proactive than reactive, and this is if you're the wrongdoer. This pertains more to the wrongdoer. Right your wrong. Be more proactive. Don't be reactive. Nobody likes a reactive apology, honestly. And it seems like the Dove Awards and TBN, they only did this apology after Kirk Franklin exposed them. So now it doesn't seem as genuine. If somebody's coming to you and saying that they've been wronged by you or by your entity, you do your best to try to right that wrong. Now I know that's easier said than done because a lot of people don't want to right their wrongs. We see that daily. But if you do have a heart, we all have hearts. If you know that you've done somebody wrong, you should have the humility and the integrity in order to right your wrong. So, what are some things that you refuse to shut up about, like Kirk Franklin? Let me know. Make sure you comment on this podcast. Like the Facebook page, The Millennial Mind. Also, you can email me your comments and ideas and topic ideas to mindofmillennials@gmail.com. Make sure you catch up on all episodes on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and Spotify. And before I leave you today, I just have a quote that I thought was good and kind of applied to this topic today. So it says, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not. Keep that in mind. Let that marinate for the rest of the week. And until next week, I will see you soon.